Thank you, Katie, and thank you everyone for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about restricting employees from competition and solicitation, considerations for complying with and seeking to enforce restrictive provisions in agreements. So a nice, real succinct, catchy title there. And while we are talking today, we're gonna have sort of three sections. The first is you're going to understand how to craft restrictive covenants and employment agreements, how to really target your vital business interests. Secondly, how to learn about alternatives to non-competes and when to use them. We're going to talk about times you might not want to use non-competes in your agreements, even though you legally can. And then finally, we're going to give you some best practices for establishing your claims, establishing defenses, if you have to enforce or on the other end of an enforcement action with regard to a restrictive covenant. What are the legal requirements? What are the things that we are going to talk to you about, and the questions we're going to ask you when you call us and say, I want to put a restrictive covenant in my employment agreements. So we've talked about reasons why you might not want to use a non-compete. So what's the alternative? We don't want you to be unprotected, and we don't want you to let your employees take your data to competitors. So what are some of the tools at your disposal that are short of a full non-compete, but yet might give you that same sort of protection? And we're going to talk about each of these things, and I know Ron already alluded to the idea of garden leave, and that's required in Massachusetts. But we're going to sort of talk a little bit more specifically. You can do that voluntarily. You don't have to live in Massachusetts to do it. But in each of these cases, what we're sort of looking to do is, rather than create a ban, an outright ban on working for a competitor, what you will have done is sort of alter the incentive structure and provide either a strong incentive for an employee not to engage in competition, or conversely, create large incentives to avoid competition. And these are sort of four ways to do that sort of thing. That's a great segue, so thanks for that question. What are some best practices? What do you do if you think someone has breached one of these provisions? And I think you're going to find it. I think you're going to be surprised what my first bit of advice is. Engage your legal counsel as soon as possible. If you suspect that someone is leaving and going to a competitor in violation of your non-comp, you want to make sure that you speak to your attorney. This is a legal matter. You now have legal alternatives. You need a legal expert to walk you through it.